Like if you're a Netflix buyer at a market, you're a celebrity. Like you almost need security to walk through the marketplace because.
Can we go back in time to that first Netflix meeting you had? What year was this?
2014 or 15. Yeah, 14 or 15. The first one was 14 because I hadn't made the movie yet. I made the movie in 15, the first one. So I pitched them before I made the movie.
How did you get that meeting?
Netflix was a different company back then. They actually, you know what? I actually phoned them up and I emailed, I got the name. You could get, they published email addresses. Like the company wasn't gigantic. It was big, obviously. It was still very big, but it wasn't what it is today. And you could actually get the names of buyers and you could email them and they would actually return an email. So that's what I did. I emailed, well, I had to email probably 15 or 20 times. Left a couple of voice messages because you could also get that. And then finally I got a return phone call. And, you know, I had done other movies before, so it wasn't my first. Had it been my first, I probably wouldn't have gotten the meeting. That was my fourth movie, the one that I pitched them on. So I'd already made 3 before. So I kind of knew what I was doing. I said, you know, here's what I've made. Here, I'm an experienced filmmaker, blah, blah, blah. I've got this movie. You got the Olympics coming up. Can I pitch you on it? So they heard the pitch, but then they said, we can't take a chance on you until we see the movie. So make the movie and then come back. But they didn't guarantee anything. They just said, make the movie and show it to us when it's done.
So the movie finished?
Yeah.
How soon before you're picking up the phone or emailing after that?
The movie wrapped at, you know, 5:05 on a Thursday, and at 5:06 I was picking up the phone. Literally.
Okay.
No, I mean, I was just saying, okay, I'm finished shooting. You know, I didn't show it to them obviously until after it's finished, edited and everything like that. But no, I was anxious. But again, back then I was depending on it a little bit more, and I was much more hopeful than I am today in terms of my realism level. Because I was a little more naive, the truth. The truth is I just wasn't as beaten up as I am now. So I really, really was hoping that they would take it. But by the way, the movie before that, I made it for Disney. And I had got into Disney, and it was called King of the Camp. It was a kids movie, a camp musical, just like Camp Rock. And it was a great movie. I loved making it. And it was so Disney. And I met with the Disney Channel twice. And we talked about it, and I came really, really close. So I knew, I had the flavor, I had the taste of what it was to be, and ultimately they said no, and it broke my heart, but at least I got there. At least I had the pitch, and you know, I sat in the Disney office, and they watched the trailer, and I saw, you know, I got to and they saw the movie, and ultimately, and you know, it was a fair no. I think it was a terrible no to get, but as they say, no is the second best answer. But so I'd been there, done that. So with Netflix, it was like, okay, I'm not going to set myself up for disappointment, but I really, really, really want this. And I got lucky.
And it sounds like, too, there were ways to get in touch with people that, I mean, you said you were incredibly naive, but also there was more access points.
Way more access points.
So,
there's no more access. Like back then, it wasn't like they would not look at unsolicited material. They actually looked at unsolicited material. Now it's done. It's finished. They're too big. They have too many. Yeah, it's so that what happened back then does not happen anymore, for obvious reasons. Yeah,
right,
I mean,
so timing.
And by the way, they weren't doing any original programming back then. I mean, they just probably started. I forget what their first series was that they made internally, but it was all acquisitions. So they needed product. So there was a lot. Look at the year that I sold them that movie. I can't remember. Statistically, they told me, I can't remember the number exactly, but it was something like they bought 900 independent films that year. And the year I sold them the last movie, they bought 300.
Oh, wow.
So, because they're making stuff internally, right? So they don't need as much external product as they do. Now, they still need some, but generally it's bigger stuff. So it's gotten harder. And by the way, it's funny. So I've got 3 movies on Netflix and I sold them 3. I think I have less of a chance now, even having done business with them 3 times, of actually selling them something more than I had back then. Just because they're so big and they have so much internal production that it's gotten even more difficult.
Since you'd already worked in distribution, didn't you have a number of contacts you could count on to try to get you in the door, even after, let's say, some of the window closed of their email addresses being online for you to access them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, a lot of distribution is networking, and people who worked at one company often end up in another company or switch around, and you keep, hopefully you have your friendships with them and your business relationships, and I do get a lot of pitch meetings that way because I know people. I mean, that's a big component of distribution, as it is in any business, right? Is networking. So yeah. So I'm not as active in distribution anymore, so I don't have as many contacts as a lot of newer people and younger people. But the people who I have known for many years who are still active, I still get meetings.
How does one become active in distribution? Let's suppose someone's starting from the ground level and they want to be able to build that rapport with people. What are some good ways they can do it themselves?
So it's funny you asked that because I do teach at San Diego State University. I teach filmmaking, and I said to a lot of my students, you might want to consider going into distribution to start your career, not production. And know that, in 5 or 10 years after you do distribution, you'll end up hopefully in production, and just, make sure you guide yourself in that direction. That's how you do it. You got to work in it. Like, you can't expect to be a working film producer and understand the distribution circles because you're not in them. You got to work in a distribution company, go to the markets, meet your competitors, meet other people, meet buyers. The distribution companies are constantly meeting with buyers. They're having drinks and dinner and all this kind of stuff and meetings, and you get to know these people, and you develop relationships over time, but you have to work in distribution to develop those relationships.
Or go to film markets. So buy a pass.
No. You can go to film markets and kind of be on the periphery, but you're not going to get in the inner circles.
I see.
Yeah, no. If you really want to get those relationships, you got it. Like, listen, a lot of people go to film markets and festivals and sit in panels and see the people, and once in a while somebody's nice enough to answer some questions or meet afterwards or whatever. But it's not the same. You're not developing that kind of relationship because you're not doing business together. You're just kind of an irritant that you're a filmmaker who wants their attention. That's the truth, So if they're polite, they'll give you the time of day. Most of them aren't polite, so they don't bother because they don't, it's like being a celebrity. Everybody wants your attention, and you just don't have time to give it to everybody. And everybody's going to pitch on the same thing, and you just get tired of it after a while. Like, if you're a Netflix buyer at a market, you're a celebrity. Like, you almost need security to walk through the marketplace because everybody is going to just divulge, just jump all over you. They just want your attention for a second.
Right. Just to clarify, the first time you pitched Netflix, were you pitching them an idea or an actual film?
Great question. So the film wasn't made, so I guess it's an idea, but there was a script, there was, the production was ready to go, all the actors were in place, I knew where I was shooting. It was just like pre-production. I pitched them at that phase. So the movie, I'd already have financed the movie, by the way. I didn't need them to finance the movie. The movie was already financed, ready to go, ready to be shot. But I felt like, if I were to do it again, I would pitch them even earlier this time, but I pitched them at that point. And by the way, I didn't just pitch Netflix. I pitched everybody. This wasn't exclusive Netflix. I mean, Netflix is one of the companies I pitched. I pitched every studio. I mean, Disney was where I was hoping to put that movie full out. I mean, Disney was the target for it. It was, girl-centric. It was female empowerment, 12-year-olds. I mean, it's the Disney audience. Frankly, I was shocked that Disney didn't buy it. Disney bought it for the Disney Channel for the rest of the world, but not the United States. I was shocked. I expected the sale to come from them. So I'm not disappointed that it came from Netflix because they were a great customer and ultimately worked out fantastic. They had a huge audience, but it was the Disney audience that I was, like, when I pitched my investors and they said, what's your niche audience? Who's your niche target? I said, it's Disney. I mean, we're setting up the movie. It's a Disney-esque style movie. It attracts their audience. This is who we're going for. So, and I had several meetings with them because I knew the people there. And they just said no. And then luckily Netflix said yes. But, I also pitched pretty well every studio. I mean, I knew a lot of people like Sony, Warner, Fox. I knew people at all these places through my distribution days. So I was able to get meetings. So that's how it happened. But it happened just before I made the movie. So there was lots to pitch on. And I had made a promo reel. Obviously I couldn't make a trailer because I hadn't shot anything yet. But I cut a promo reel, almost like a little sort of 3-minute documentary about I'm making the movie about, where I'm shooting it, little narration, that type of thing, just to make it a little bit more visually appealing. And it was a good promo reel.
Did they say why they didn't want to take on U.S. territory?
Disney? They didn't like the movie. They don't tell you why.
They don't tell you why. Okay, I wasn't sure.
And even if they do tell you why, it just make you feel good. What are they going to say to me? It's not a good movie, or it doesn't. You know what? They did say. You know what they said? They said it doesn't suit our audience. And I said, okay, this is confusing to me. Number one is Disney Channel Rest of World took the movie and it suits their audience. But Disney Channel USA said it doesn't suit our audience. And then I said that to them and they said, it's a different audience. And I said, you're kidding me? But what am I going to argue? I just take everything to mean we don't like it. Thanks a lot. Nice try. No matter what they say, that's what I hear. They could say anything and I hear, sorry, nice try, come back tomorrow.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how much they told you, because that's very fascinating that the rest of the world liked it, but the U.S.
But I don't believe it.
You don't believe it?
I don't believe. I know. First of all, I know darn well that movie plays to their audience. They just didn't have room for it or whatever. That's what they told me. It was, whatever they needed to tell me to be polite and, and get me out the door.
Sure.
That movie plays to their audience. We all know it. They know it. I know it. The world is not different that way. 12-year-old girls are 12-year-old girls everywhere.